Namaste. Namaste from Boston. I am an IT professional working in the Quality and Safety Division of Boston Children's Hospital. I am a founding member of the Boston Center of Excellence for Health and Human Development. I would like to thank our experts for today's webinar, and also thanks to our participants from around the world, over 16 countries. Now, a few words about BoCE. Boston Center of Excellence for Health and Human Development is established to bring together researchers, subject matter experts, practitioners, and supporters to foster research, program development, education, training, and promotion of yoga and Ayurveda. The center aims to improve and promotion and disease outcome by making yoga and Ayurveda core constituent of integrative health and medicine in the US and worldwide. COVID-19 pandemic is real and affecting every aspect of our lives. Today, we have three experts with Ayurvedic background will discuss about healthy food habits, both for boosting our immunity as well as how creative we can be in preparing healthy food. So by the end of this webinar, you will be able to know two very interesting and fun things. One, know yourself better, your nature, prakriti, your constitution, your dosha, and much more. And the second thing, you will be motivating enough to prepare pranic food by utilizing all the spices. You will know the magic. Let me introduce to you today Miss Hilary Garivaltis, who will be moderating today's webinar. Hilary is the Executive Director of the National Ayurvedic Medical Association and Principal Founder of Ayurvedic Health Education Services, LLC, which offers educational training programs in Ayurveda throughout the United States and Canada. Hilary is also the founder and former dean of the Kripalu School of Ayurveda and has more than 20 years of experience in teaching Ayurvedic daily living tools and Ayurvedic therapy techniques. She received her training at the New England Institute of Ayurvedic Medicine with advanced training in India from Rishikesh College of Ayurveda and the Jiva Institute. Hilary has served on the National Ayurvedic Medical Association board since 2006 and is active in advancing Ayurvedic medicine through initiatives throughout the United States. Hilary, please.
Thank you, Monty. I'm honored to be here representing the National Ayurvedic Medical Association and the Ayurvedic community, and to be here with my esteemed colleagues, Vishal and Sapna.
Hilary, your video is off.
Oh, sorry. Hello.
That's okay. All right.
All right, let me start over. I'm so happy to be here with all of you, and thank you to the Boston Center of Excellence for Health and Human Development for organizing this and putting this on. It's a very important topic to all of us right now, and I'm so thrilled to be here with Pratibha Shah and Sapna Punjabi Gupta, who are going to go into a lot more details around how we can boost our immunity through our digestive health, through the foods that we are eating at this time when immunity is a very important factor in our well-being and ability to fight the viruses that are out there now and in the future. Ayurveda has a very special place in our system for working with the digestion, with our digestive fire, with the understanding of the body and how food works in our body for us and against us. And it's important to understand these principles. So I want to move right along into our discussion so our speakers can really share their knowledge with you. We're going to start with Pratibha Shah. Pratibha is a BAMS MD from India, had her full training in India, and has done her MPH here in the United States. She's one of the leading Ayurveda experts in the USA, and her pioneering initiatives in the field of Ayurveda have brought her to attention at the White House, the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Consulate General of India in New York City. She's a prolific speaker and educator in the community. She's been an invited speaker in many local and international conferences and has given several keynote addresses. She's authored several papers and is an editor with the Ayurveda Journal of Health. She's also a senior faculty at the Kerala Ayurveda Academy, and she routinely delivers educational lectures at modern medicine institutes such as the Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, the American Nurses Association, and more. Pratibha will focus her talk on an overview of Ayurveda for you and the concepts of Agni and Ama, which you'll soon learn what that means, and its relationship to our overall health, immunity, and the disease process. She'll also guide us with some suggestions on herbs that are useful for respiratory health according to Ayurveda. Please join me in welcoming Pratibha Shah.
Hello, Hilary. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm trying to minimize this screen so that I can put the slides up fully. Please bear with me. Hemante, how can I escape this? Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. This minimize button came, but it went. Give me 1 second. Okay, let me know if you're able to see my screen. All right.
Yes.
All right. Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay. So namaste everyone. I cannot see myself anymore because I'm sharing my screen now. But I want to start by thanking Hilary for the kind introduction and the Boston Center of Excellence for organizing these informative sessions in these unprecedented times. The topic is relevant, and hopefully in the short span of time, we will be able to impart some useful information to all the attendees. I will be covering the Ayurveda part of food, gut, health, and immunity, and my dear colleague Sapna Gupta, Punjabi Gupta, is going to be covering the aspects from a dietitian's perspective and the sort of the mainstream approach to gut health. This is a small FYI that I like to share at the beginning of my presentations, that this is anything that is being disseminated today or delivered today through the presentation is not meant to replace any medical advice. Anything that I'm saying has not been verified or approved by the FDA, and I do not make any claims, promises, or guarantees of any kind. And then information presented here is for information's sake only. Thank you. So I'm going to be quick and diving right away into the topic because time is short. I do want to give a prelude that there could be some mainstream physicians here on the audience side, and some could be from hard science side. So I do want to state a couple things before I start the subject matter. Ayurveda is one of the world's most ancient continuously practiced systems of medicine. And the principles that are in Ayurveda are a little more metaphysical in nature and a little more broad than what we come across in hard science, which is I would like to highlight that as a plus point, although mostly it is looked down upon as a negative point as being too broad. I would like everybody to kind of come in an open mind frame right now as you attend the next 1 hour of information presented, because Ayurveda, in fact, has an advantage by taking a broad view and broad principles approach to understanding health as well as disease, because that is exactly how the human body behaves. It is complex, it's not linear, and it's not sequential. Many things are happening parallelly in our body, and therefore a system like Ayurveda provides the necessary breadth as well as the flexibility for incorporating the variations that are presented in human bodies, human beings, as well as the intricacies of their physiologies. And all of these key Ayurvedic fundamental principles are objects of interest right now, especially with the recent Nobel Prizes in the field of circadian rhythm and also autophagy, and publication of Ayurvedic Prakriti analysis concept in Nature magazine, which, as everybody knows, is the premier scientific journal. So with that prelude, I'll take you through my presentation today, and here is an outline. I'll just give a very quick intro into what is Ayurveda, an overview of very key principles because they tie into understanding the specific Agni body types as well. And I will introduce the concept of Agni and Ama, impact of gut health on overall health, and I will not dwell greatly on that because my colleague will be highlighting that more. And then I'll focus on the pulse of traditional wisdom from Ayurveda for achieving optimal gut health and some takeaways. So Ayurveda, to begin with, is a complex Sanskrit word comprising of two Sanskrit words, Ayu and Veda. Ayu means life, Veda means knowledge, stream, or science of. So Ayurveda is that stream of knowledge or science that encompasses all aspects related to life, starting from birth to death and everything in between. How should one live life? What are some of the guidelines to live an optimal, efficient, productive, healthy life? And have healthy progenies as well. So very, very vast stream of science. And if I were to give an elevator pitch about Ayurveda, I would say Ayurveda is about 3 P's: personalization, promotion, and prevention. And I'm going to start with prevention, and this introductory part is going to be brief, as I said. So prevention, and I would add a word here, preservation. So prevention and preservation is basically that part of Ayurveda, and a large part of Ayurveda. In fact, the first stated goal of Ayurveda is preservation of the health of the healthy. And a lot of protocols, guidelines have been given to preserve the health that each individual is born with. So if we are born with X amount of health, the goal here is to how do we maintain that X amount of health? How do we preserve that X amount of health? And into that go daily care practices, seasonal alignments, eating and living aligned to one specific blueprint of body type, periodic, thorough, and deep cleansing, and following universal principles of living. So for obvious reasons, I cannot go into great detail on these bullets. And then comes promotion. So promotion is that part of Ayurveda that focuses on enhancing what you're born with. So if you're born with X amount of health, how can we make it X plus 1, X plus 2, even X squared? So there is room to enhance your baseline, and there are very, very detailed protocols on how to energize and enrich already existing baseline health levels of various tissues and organs. Again, cannot go into detail, but this part I'll dwell a little bit because it's relevant to today's topic. Ayurveda 5,000 years ago has recognized that no two individuals are alike. We are all unique. We understand that today in the form of everybody having a unique DNA footprint. And Ayurveda, with a beautiful metaphysical approach, has said the same thing in a much more robust way 5,000 years ago. So matter of pride, but also very, very useful principle. In a minute you will understand why and how to apply this. So Ayurveda bases a lot of its principles on this very key fundamental principle that the entire world or universe comprises of or is made up of these 5 elemental building materials: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Ether is nothing but space. And for a minute, just hold on to this metaphysical concept. And then Ayurveda says that think of these 5 elements representing in our being and in the form of 3 unique energies, which are called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And for a minute, again, you don't have to remember the names. Just remember that space, air is one entity, fire, water is one, and earth, water is another. And these are the 3 representations of these 3 energies. These are the physical representations. You can see one is slightly thinner, leaner, one is right in the middle, and one is larger. The large depiction is not obese or overweight. They're just large, wide shoulders, big bones, big joints, etc. And this is how they represent in few of the ways. Again, this is a very small preview of how we use the body type concept, but these are the 3 main buckets. You can have 3 more main buckets out of combination of any 2. So Vata Pitta, Pitta Kapha, Kapha Vata, these are another 3 buckets of body types. And the 7th one is where you have kind of even distribution of all elements and doshas. So that of course is a desirable body type, and these are again a preview of some of the physical, psychological, and physiological tendencies of the body in each body type, and they differ, as you can see. And here I would like to highlight, you can see digestion and appetite here. In Vata, you have varying appetite and digestion, and Pitta, you have strong appetite, strong digestion, and in Kapha, it can be dull and slow. Just hold that in your mind. And this is a depiction of the various components of gut health. Again, Sapna Punjabi Gupta will be going over this in detail. Now I want to come to the main concept that I want to introduce in this presentation. It's the concept of Agni and Ama. All right. Agni is very broadly speaking, it is the digestive fire in our body. And you can see from this picture that primarily the word Agni is used to depict the metabolic fire or the digestive fire. And we have 13 digestive fires in Ayurveda, but the main one is the Jataragni, and that is depicted here as residing in the gut. The rest of the fires are at the cellular and at the tissue level, and in a minute you will see how they play out. But as you can see here, on the left side, the outcome of the state of the content in the pot on the fire is directly dependent on the quality of the fire below, quality as well as the intensity. Similarly, on the right hand side, the quality and the intensity of the fire directly impacts the finished products of what we ingest. I will explain that in a little more detail. But to close this comparison, on the left-hand side, if the fire is low, you will end up with unripe, uncooked material. And if the fire is over intense, the food might get burnt. In both scenarios, it is not useful. Same thing happens on the right side. If it's low fire, weak fire, we get a lot of uncooked, unfinished material, which can get toxic to the body. And if it is too intense, the fire, then we get burnt material, which again is not being able to utilized by the body. We'll remember that for a minute. And this is a pictorial depiction of the 3 types of Agnis in the 3 dosha types. We have already gone over that, but the lower part you can see shows the steps in the formation of the second word that I'm going to explain, which is ama. Ama is that undigested material. So bear these terms in mind, and in a minute you'll have a little more clarity on that. And this table clearly depicts the features of the Agnis, the 3 varieties based on the body types, the associated doshas and the metabolic expressions. These slides are going to be there in the recording, so you can go over them in detail later. Now, these are few points that can help you understand the importance, the central importance of Agni. Now, at this point when I'm presenting, I would like all of you to place your left or right palm on your gut. So what you understand as gut. So that is where your Agni is, okay? And as you see that your gut is right in the middle of your physical body. Interestingly, it is also right in the center of our physiological being and also our psychological being. We all know that gut is being considered as the second brain of our body, and I like to say that gut is the primary brain of the body because the brain that is in the skull primarily is listening to this main brain in our gut, and basically being like a chieftain, sending the signals to the other glands and organs to operate based on the commands that it is receiving from the gut. So this is very important to understand. Agni is at the center of the operating capacities of the gut. So Agni is critically important to our overall health and well-being. And Agni is also responsible for our overall immunity. So it is a very important topic to understand today and in the current scenario, because by protecting our Agni and by improving our Agni and by keeping a watchful eye on our Agni, we can actually get optimal immunity, which is really precious in the time of crisis that we are in right now. So Agni is the force of intelligence within each cell, each tissue. Now I alluded to 13 types of Agnis in Ayurveda. The primary Agni is the gut Agni, that is called Jathar Agni. And the rest of the Agnis reside in cells and tissues. And these are responsible for operating in the uh, favor of the cell and tissue. So each cell, when the food material comes knocking at the door of the cell, the Agni is the intelligence that is responsible for helping the cell realize, okay, this material is favorable for me and it is meant for me. You know, the muscle tissue will never take up what is meant for the bone tissue. So that intelligence comes from the cell Agni. Okay, this is called Dhatu Agni and then Bhut Agni in Ayurveda. And that is also very important because each cell needs to get only what it needs, and also it needs to understand, have the intelligence to discern what should enter the cell and what should not. So only the nutrients should be entering the cells, the toxins should not. So that is an important capability and capacity that comes from cellular Agni. Just try and visualize that. And Agni also helps us distinguish between nutrition and waste, helpful and harmful memory of self and the other. This is extremely, extremely important. If you look up the triad for autoimmune diseases, gut dysbiosis is one important triad in the causation of autoimmune diseases. And that gut dysbiosis comes from an impaired Agni. So not knowing the self from the other is an indication of a very impaired Agni. And Agni also governs the digestion. So in Ayurveda, we always say, you are not what you just eat, you are what you digest. So you would have all heard the saying that we are what we eat. And I would like to add another layer to that and say, we are not just what we eat, we are what we digest. You can put the best food, most organic, healthy, nutritious food in the body, but if your processor is not working properly, you will still get gunk out of it. So we are what we digest. I think that second line is equally important. So Ayurveda governs the digestion, absorption, assimilation, transportation of all the nutrients in the body, which result in strength and vitality, mental clarity, to name a few. Because brain fog is another indication of impaired Agni, and it's a very common self-reported symptom that we are hearing more and more these days. And immunity, as I alluded to earlier, is one of the most important functions ascribed to Agni, and therefore it provides an opportunity as well to fix the Agni and therefore acquire good immunity. And as a corollary, impaired Agni is the fundamental cause of most intrinsic diseases, means diseases that come from inside us. An important factor in extrinsic diseases, which are bacterial diseases, viral diseases, and diseases that come from external factors such as trauma, accidents, injury, etc. Now, these are some of the common factors that impair Agni. Unclean foods, and this I don't mean physically unclean, I mean their makeup, the makeup of food today. The industry, food industry is very abused in current times. So I'm alluding to refined, altered, and denatured foods, unseasonal foods. This is something we have lost a sense of. Traditionally, in all parts of the world, we have seasonal transitions. For example, eggnogs, ciders do not come out in summer. So there is still some following of seasonalities, but because of genetic modification and other industrial practices, the younger generation especially has lost connection with certain foods being normal in certain seasons only. We get melons in the dead of winter, for example, and these are wrong practices according to Ayurveda, and they do impact ultimately. It may be slow impact, but they do impact our capacities ultimately. Lack of consistency in meal times. Well, sometimes you can miss meals, but if you are having your meals at irregular times, sometimes in the in the middle of the afternoon, sometimes late night, don't have a periodicity to it, consistency to it, it can impact the processor, which is the Agni. Overeating is like dumping the Agni with too much, and the Agni can get dampened. Ice drinks, this is a big one, especially with meals. So if you go back to this picture of cooking and the Agni, you can imagine that just when you're about to cook, if you put a container of cold, first of all, water, and that to cold water on the left side, you can imagine on the source of the fire, and you can imagine what is going to be the impact on what you're trying to achieve here. And same thing happens to your gut fire when you put an ice drink or an iced water, any iced cold drink beverage onto the fire. It gets dampened and therefore incapacitated. So you definitely do not want ice drinks, especially with meals. And even the quantity of the liquid that you're having should be moderate, and sips is better. Otherwise, you dampen the fire. Lack of physical activity can also impact the Agni. Stress, anxiety very directly. We understand the psychosomatic connection more and more. And Ayurveda has said that stress, anxiety will impact the capacity of the Agni. And that is why you should also not be watching very emotionally aggravating stuff while eating. Trauma. I think we have all witnessed this or even experienced in our lives, that when someone has had a loss, is grieving, they can lose their appetite and their digestive capacities. It may be temporary, it can be prolonged, but that is something that has to be recognized. Pharmaceuticals, very important. They impact the Agni directly. Antibiotics, but others as well. Improper food combinations. This is a big topic in Ayurveda, and maybe BoC can cover this topic in sometime in future. Now, ama. Let's understand ama. As I explained earlier, anything that is unripe, uncooked, raw, immature, or undigested can be called ama. Again, it's an umbrella term under which many such transformed, uncooked, unripe substances can be grouped. In the current context, it can refer to all the unutilized substances that get created due to low Agni in the body. And one important thing I want to allude to again briefly is that when we talk about food in Ayurveda, we're not just talking about the diet, we're also talking about the emotional food, the sensory organs food. So what we see, what we hear, what we experience in our mind, and the emotions that we retain, all of those also directly have an impact on Agni. So the positive emotions, positive subjects to our sense organs will have a positive impact on the Agni, and contrary to that otherwise. Hello?
We've got to wrap up your part, and we'll be able to come back to some more points at the end. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I may have missed your message. So this is a quick guide for optimal gut health. Know which foods are best for you, and eat accordingly. Know your food, know the source of your food. Pay attention to your digestion at all times, assimilation, etc. The first shloka in Ayurveda says, Brahma Murte Uttishtet Jirna Jirna Nirupayan. Get up in the morning, and the first thing is mentally scan how you're feeling and how your body and system is doing. Eat seasonal, local, and ethical. And this is again a quick guide, and I'm happy to share it separately as well. but kind of summarizes all that I have been saying. These are some additional things you can do. And last but not the least, please do not forget love, kindness. These are the secret ingredients for health, gut health as well, and immunity. And have a stress management plan. Break into a dance, especially at these times. If you feel stressed and overwhelmed, do something silly, but break the stress cycle in the body. And these are some of the herbs that I just want to mention quickly. Tulsi, Guduchi, Amalaki, Vasa, Ashwagandha, these are herbs that enhance the respiratory immunity, and especially in these times, and these are well-researched herbs, turmeric especially, and I'm going to just show, no, I can't show right now because the camera is on this share screen. But these are other simple formulations that are available for respiratory immunity. And again, you can reach out to me, and this is a simple recipe which you can make at home. Spice tea, benefits of spice tea, and I'm happy to share all of these with you later on.
Thank you so much, Pratibha. We will come back to many of those points in our questions, and we can go over some of the herbs at the end a bit too. I know that we had to kind of quickly go through, but thank you so much. You can unshare your screen, and we're going to prepare to have Sapna come on. So I'm going to introduce Sapna while they transition their slides. Sapna Punjabi Gupta is an MS, RDN, and an Ayurvedic practitioner. She's a culinary wellness expert, a registered dietitian, Ayurvedic practitioner, as I said, and a creative force of BoCE to her company. With more than 20 years of combined experience and clinical background, lifelong personal practice of vegetarianism, expertise in Ayurvedic studies, Sapna passionately strives to offer insights and spread awareness of the healing power of food, spices, and the profound effects they have on our body, mind, and soul. Her work has been featured in both national and international print media. Sapna's wellness workshops and cooking classes are hugely popular, along with her vibrant YouTube channel that celebrates food, life, and all things spice. Sapna's going to begin and speak a bit about the gut microbiome from the Western perspective, and weaving in her Ayurvedic knowledge in the balance here as well, and its relationship to immunity. And she'll cover some everyday spices that will help the gut microbiome, Agni, and immunity. So welcome, Sapna, to our afternoon talk. Welcome, Sapna.
Namaste. I just want to do a quick check. Can you hear me, Hillary?
Yes, I can hear you, and your slides are up on the screen. You're good to go.
Awesome. Well, namaste, everyone. You know, the greeting of namaste is so timely, right? In the era of that we are living, the new era of social distancing and the COVID chaos that we are. So namaste is a wonderful greeting that can be embraced universally. So namaste to y'all. Thank you for joining from all different parts of the world, from various countries. I am thankful to be a part of this webinar. Thank you to the Boston Center of Excellence for the invitation. Thank you to Hillary for the introduction to the Boston Center of Excellence. As Hillary mentioned, I am both a registered dietitian and also an Ayurveda practitioner, a lifelong vegetarian. So I like to combine my Indian Eastern roots with my Western expertise to make make understanding of difficult terms easy and practical and accessible. And food and spices definitely are my passion, and I like to enter people's heart and enter the knowledge of Ayurveda through food and spices. So I'm gonna go. There's again, Pratibha ji covered a lot of information. Ayurveda is a vast science. There's so much to learn, but we are going to be focusing our presentation today and our engagement today with y'all focusing on diet. Just as the speaker one mentioned, I wanted to just share some of the disclaimers, and let me just move my Okay, that this content that we are sharing is strictly for educational purposes. It does not substitute medical advice. I understand there are a lot of people that are suffering because of the pandemic. So if you are having an active concern, consider all the information that we are sharing today as education. Discuss with your healthcare practitioner now more than ever to get them involved and let them know if you're making any changes. We are not making any claims. I'm not making any claims or promises. And definitely, as I have worked myself in the critical care setting, I was a neonatal nutritionist, so I took care of really critical care babies. Also as a trauma dietitian and other areas of critical care, I very well understand, the evidence-based medicine and how, both of them can work hand in hand. So definitely get your doctors your healthcare professional a part of your care. So with that being said, I'm trying to see if I can minimize so I can see my entire screen. I think this would do the trick. So there are so many terminologies that are floating out there. So I wanted to have just some basic understanding about it. And, I always tell people I have a Western side of brain and an Eastern side of brain, and they both have to be happy at the same time. So always start with definition. Like there's coronavirus terminologies, there's COVID-19. When you talk about the word coronavirus, it can be, it refers to a large family of viruses that cause illness, from common cold to severe illnesses like the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome that happened a few years ago, coronavirus, and also SARS coronavirus. So what we are faced right now, currently in 2020, is COVID-19, and that is the illness that is being caused by the 2019 novel coronavirus. Okay, because a common cold also comes from coronavirus, but we are referring to COVID-19, and that's what everybody is trying to grapple and have all these precautions of social distancing and all over the world. So I just want to have some clarity as we begin. Also, let's get some simple things on the ground here before we jump into Ayurveda and connecting gut microbiome. What do we know about COVID-19? So we do know, and again, there's new research happening every day. So this recording would be available online. So if you are watching this recording, a year from now, 6 months from now, I'm sure some of the things would have to be different. So just be mindful of that things are constantly getting changed, and protocols are being generated right now. But what we do know is that the COVID-19 symptoms include cough, mostly dry cough, fever, and shortness of breath. COVID-19 can be severe, and there are cases, and we are seeing the fatality and the mortality increasing in some parts of the world. And that is why there is a sense of urgency around this pandemic. COVID-19, we do know can spread from person to person through droplets from cough and sneezes. There is no vaccine yet. So what we have is us. What we have is our own protection. That is why having talks like this is of paramount importance, because prevention is the key as of now. Even though they will have a vaccine in future, there's no better cure than prevention. I'm sure you would agree to that. Something simple that can be done no matter where you are and which part of the world you are, Ayurveda or no Ayurveda. We know simple things like practicing good hygiene, hand washing, all of them are critical at this point. We want to maintain good respiratory etiquette. That's why you see a lot of people wearing masks. There's a shortage of supplies for that. And maintaining social distance. And you're seeing different forms of social distancing happening, from milder to severe forms of quarantine that are happening. So we all need to, be mindful of everything. I want to point out that the two sources of most updated information that I go to are cdc.gov and coronavirus.gov. And again, this talk is happening in the United States, and if you are in countries that are not from the United States, you would have to follow your country guidelines as well. But to look for US guidelines, I would say these two websites are our go-to for the most updated information, and I go to them as well. Okay, so I just wanted to just touch on those key areas. And then I want to jump into my talk and even ask this question: with COVID-19, can we truly fight back? Can our immune system fight back? The answer is yes, I believe so. And for some more and for some it may be to a lesser degree. What I mean by that, there are some we have identified that there are a category of people that are high risk, right? They already are immune compromised. There is age factor, there is different factors that are coming up, kids. So we want to make sure they have a different kind of immune system. But for many of us who are healthy, or or at least consider themselves healthy, now would be an excellent time to gather different tools, start different practices. If we have forgotten some practices, to bring those back so we can strengthen our immune system. There are studies that have shown, I saw a recent study from Australia where COVID-19 right now that has shown that 80%, and we know that a good percentage of people are able to fight back. And so we do know that having a good, healthy immune system has repercussions, positive outcomes to the way we react to COVID-19, from mild, moderate to severe. Okay, so I just want you all to know that it's very important. Now, as a dietitian and as a healthcare practitioner, and also from an Ayurveda standpoint, I want to introduce you to the idea of microbiome. Dr. Shah mentioned a lot about Agni, Ama, and that is true. That is wonderful. And Western evidence is actually supporting what Ayurveda knew thousands of years ago. Gut microbiome is a hot topic, has been the recent hot topic in the Western medicine area. So what is a microbiome? Our average human contains trillions of gut bacteria. We are made up of 10 times as many microbial cells as human cells. And our microbiome is constantly changing. It's influenced by life stages, by our diet, geography, medications, stress, exercise. So we are constantly a pool of microbiome that is changing and evolving. Especially gut microbiome. There are lots of studies. It's a great topic of research in the Western world, and there are proven gut microbiome. And I'm going to add a slide which has all the references that I have referred to at the end, so you can have that. But there is evidence that supports gut microbiome and its connection to metabolism, to digestion, immune health, and gut-brain axis. And Dr. Shah had touched upon the whole gut-brain connection as well. So I want to support that. There is evidence that show that healthy individuals differ remarkably in the microbiomes that occupy in their gut and in their skin. And I have to tell you that Western evidence is just beginning to peel the layers of the connection of the microbiome and health. Ayurveda is a holistic medicine, and I just want to cover just something very quick, and then we'll jump on to diet and spices. But Ayurveda has been a living, practicing holistic medicine that has been practiced for more than 5,000 years, or maybe even more. There are some research that show it's more than 5,000 years. The word Ayurveda is made up of two words: Ayu, which means life or daily living, and Veda means knowledge or science. So it is termed as science of life. As Dr. Shah said, the three objectives of Ayurveda is to preserve the health of the healthy, to promote health of the healthy, and to prevent and cure the disease of the ill person. Ayurveda is very practical. You don't have to be born in India to practice Ayurveda. You don't have to move to India to practice Ayurveda. And you certainly don't have to eat Indian to practice Ayurveda. It's a practical knowledge, and it can be easily acquired by anyone. I always tell in my workshops, my wellness workshops, my cooking classes, that learning Ayurveda is the best form of self-love and self-care. And self-care and self-love are the two big buzzwords right now in social media. And learning and practicing Ayurveda is just that. Every individual is capable of self-healing, and that is, I would say, such a huge emphasis is placed on the individual themselves. We have the power of healing in our own hands, not a magic pill or magic a remedy or a vaccine. Yes, and there are so many studies, right, that show there's a placebo and then there is a drug, and there is a group of the placebo that does equally well, so we as individuals are capable of our own self-healing, and Ayurveda gives that power to each one of us, teaches us that we have that power. I also, being an Ayurveda practitioner and a registered dietitian, I feel, and also being an Indian, I feel like it's my responsibility to provide authentic, correct information about the Ayurvedic science. And I always tell people, Ayurveda is not a voodoo science. WHO recognizes Ayurveda as a traditional medicine. The National Institute of Medicine, NIH, here in the United States, treats Ayurveda as complementary medicine. So it is definitely not a voodoo science. And I would say Ayurveda is the most personalized and customized approach to medicine. And I think that is the future of medicine overall. And Ayurveda is already ahead of the game, because that is what Ayurveda is. So you learned a lot about Agni from Dr. Shah, and I want to just start off my part of the presentation and my focus, and I completely agree, and there's no better healer than our own gut health and our own gut digestive fire. From the text of Ayurveda, Agni is responsible for lifespan, for complexion, for strength, health, enthusiasm, luster, immunity, energy, heat processes, and prana, or life force energy. Agni is the root cause of both our health and our disease. And I say we are as healthy as our gut. And we are learning that from a Western point of view. And we have known that from the Ayurveda point of view from generations and generations ago. So nurturing now more than ever is the most crucial time to focus on our gut health, because that's the gateway to our immunity and towards our microbiome. So Agni correlates with digestive fire. We learned that from speaker one, and associated with activities of hormones, enzymes, and coenzymes. Agni represents the metabolic function by which we eat our food, how our food is digested, how it's absorbed, how the nutrition or the rasa, that's the deep term in Ayurveda, or the essence is reached to every single cells in our body. It is a metaphor of digestion, but it's also a metaphor for sense perception, and even cellular metabolism. I want to say right now here with our coronavirus pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, Agni, apart from our gut, there is cellular Agni at so many different levels, as Dr. Shah also said. And we have 5 sense organs, or Gyanendriyas, the 5 senses, how we are digesting. There's Agni in all of them. How we are digesting emotionally, how we are digesting all the information. There's so much of information overload from the screens, watching this webinar. So how we are calming ourselves also, and our senses is going to play a huge role in developing and building our Agni. Okay, Agni is an ignition switch. I say it's like an ignition switch for our digestive enzymes to start working. And when Agni, or digestive fire, is in balance, our doshas are in balance. And I cannot agree more. That's what my teacher, Dr. Lad, has taught me, is you are as healthy as your gut. And and from an Ayurveda perspective, we, as Dr. Shah also mentioned, that we have heard the terminology, you are what you eat, but as my teacher and all the gurus that I have learned from has taught, from an Ayurveda perspective, all the text teaches us that you are what you digest. So always remember that. So I want to jump in because I want to give you at least some simple tools that you can digest easily. I don't want this webinar to be overwhelming for you. I want it to be simple. So even though there are so many things that we are sharing to you, what I ask you to do is pick 2 things from our webinar that is easy for you to practice today. And because there's so much of fear and anxiety, and I would say aggravation of vata around us, constantly our kids are home, we are stuck at home, I want to make it easy for you. So just pick 2 simple things that gravitated that you were drawn towards in this webinar. And I'm going to be sharing some easy lists to you. So what are some of the diet practices during COVID-19 times to improve and diversify our gut microbiome? We learned about the 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, from the first speaker. And I would say it predominantly right now we are in a Vata aggravate. Our Vata is all messed up. Secondly, Kapha. Because there's a lot of there could be some brain fog, there could be some sluggishness. Also, our activity is restricted. Maybe our portion sizes of our food is all messed up. So Vata and Kapha are the 2 areas when I see my clients on a one-on-one basis during my wellness consultations. That's what I'm focusing on right now. There could be an underlying Pitta issues or anger issues or inflammation issues, but predominantly it's Vata and Kapha is what I am seeing in my practice. So what one needs to do right now? You want to focus on seasonal food. So choose foods that are Vata and Kapha pacifying. And as Hillary mentioned, I have a YouTube channel also called BoCE-Spice, and I'll be pointing some videos to you that you go and watch, because we don't have enough time to cover such a vast science here. So I have videos for taste of spring season that covers mainly Kapha pacifying practices, so you can watch that. Now is more than ever is the time to stay hydrated, especially with learning about the COVID-19 virus and how our upper respiratory and our lung function has to be really nice and healthy. You don't want your nasal passages, you don't want your throat to be dry. So always have sip of water around you, carry some water, even in the house around you. And if you want to go one step further, actually what we practice at home is sip on warm water. So, and I love to cook. And if you are on social media, I love being on Instagram, and my account is BoCE-Spice, and I'm constantly doing Insta stories and live sessions, teaching and doing what I'm cooking in my kitchen with my family. So definitely follow that. Now is a great time to make spicy broths. And next week I will be putting a new video, and it's my spiced Agni broth. So be on the lookout for that. And to teach you how you can make things from your kitchen pantry, because our kitchen is our true pharmacy. So this is not a good time for cold water, ice water, cold beverages, cold food, even raw food. You want to cook your food with healthy fats, whatever fats that you like to cook, oils, ghee is fine. Don't forget your skin. That is the largest organ of your body. So keep your skin also nourished, moist, and lubricated. Choose foods that are easy to digest. So if you're able to have more plant-based foods at this point, I would say do that. It's much easier available. It's also more shelf stable, especially rice and grains and legumes and pulses. So choose those. Apart from a regular intake of vegetables, legumes, and fruits, which gives us lots of nutrition, and fresh fruits. If you have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, how thankful can we be among all this chaos and crisis? I go to the grocery store once a week at least, because I'm based in Dallas, Texas, and we are a shelter-in-place city right now. It's been actually a week today. It was last weekend that it was enforced, but we are able to go to outside for essentials, and seeing fresh produce gives me joy. So if you have that, do that. Apart from the good nutrition, it also is a great source of prebiotics. Okay, and that adding prebiotics and adding probiotics to your gut also is going to diversify your gut microbiome. You want to include some fermented foods and probiotic rich foods at this time, a little amount, whether it's kimchi or whether it's sauerkraut. If you know Indian dishes like dosas and idlis, any kind of fermented food would be great in small amount. Don't overdo it, because that can also have an undesirable effect. You want to diversify your food choices. If you are a same kind of a meat and potato kind of a schedule, or you just eat a certain variety of food, or you only eat certain kind of breads, see if you can experiment at this time. See if you have some extra time at home. See if you can cook something different for yourself. You want to diversify. You want to make sure you include all the 6 Ayurvedic tastes, which are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, astringent. And because that, from an Ayurveda perspective, is a balanced meal. Do your best. I know we are all dependent on processed foods, but do your best to cut down on sugar and processed foods at this time. And spices. I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about them next, but now is the time to spice up your meals, add fresh herbs, dried herbs, fresh spices, dried spice powder. Please spice up. We know from a Western evidence point of view that spices contain many antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory properties. They are a good source of polyphenols, and they're excellent for our gut bacteria. Ayurveda has a deep study, a deep respect for spices, and each spice has its own rasa, virya, vipak, and there's such extensive study about each spice, and we don't have the time to do that. But I would say these are my top spices that I and in our family, and when I am teaching, this is what I am telling my folks to do: is turmeric powder. If you have access to turmeric root, great. Cumin seeds. I have a recipe on my YouTube how to make homemade roasted cumin seed powder in your home. Coriander, fennel, ginger, black pepper, cloves, cinnamon, cardamom. They're ideal for everyday spices. Cloves, cinnamon, cardamom, black pepper, ginger are also excellent for respiratory health because we want to make sure we are taking care of that right now. I'm giving you some easy examples. Drink digestive teas before, with, or after a meal. Spices support your gut, they support your digestion. I have a video on my YouTube channel. Look for this. It's called Ayurvedic Tea for Digestion. I call it CCFR. The traditional Ayurveda formulation is called CCF. Coriander, cumin, fennel. This is my take on it, and I've added the 4th ingredient, dried rose petals, and you learn why I did that and how rose is such a beautiful, gift from nature, and it has a deeper effect on our body, mind, and our spirit. So sip on warm beverages. This is so simple to make, and you will learn about that in the video. Add spices to your daily cooking. Again, it doesn't have to be Indian spices. Go to your pantry and see if you have some spices, Italian spices, Cajun spices. Add spices to your meal. Chew some fennel seeds after a meal. If you have access to that, or if you're able to order some, that helps with digestion and relieves bloating and gas. So it helps reduce your vata, which is anyway just so over the top high for most of us right now. Eat a slice of ginger root sprinkled with lime juice and rock salt before a meal, and this stimulates digestive enzymes. I have a video how to make your own ginger relish with 3 simple ingredients, so you can go watch that. Another thing that we are practicing in our home is gargling our mouth with warm water and a pinch of salt. And if you want to go a step further, even add a pinch of turmeric and do that at least one time a day, first thing in the morning. And what we are practicing, if one of us has to go out during the COVID-19 shelter in place time, if we are running to the store or going out to get essentials, when we're coming home, we are definitely washing our hands for 20 seconds. What my mom also said, this was her remedy, she said, and I completely believe her because she is my first teacher and my first guru. She says, every time you are leaving the house and coming back, first wash your hands, then wash your face and your eyes, and then gargle your mouth with warm water and a pinch of salt. And how true is that, right? Because those are the orifices from where viruses can go in. So this was a great tip that my mom shared. And I have another recipe about how to make a spiced honey throat coat, just to make sure that your throat has has the potent spices exposed. Especially do this when you're congested or have sinus issues. So just I talk about that a little more in my video. And so those were some of the simple things I wanted to share. I did not want to overwhelm you with a lot of things, and we would love to take more questions, but these are my references that I'll leave in this presentation. And at some point, I hope we can all join together and say a prayer, that we all may be free from our illness. We all hopefully are able to connect spiritually at this time, find our own peace, you know, and just Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti to all of you. And I'm just going to leave this here as well. If you have any specific questions related to food, diet, spices, Ayurveda, wellness, reach out in any way. I'm offering, you know, complimentary wellness check-in, 15-minute check-in slots. It's all on my website, BoCE. So I would love to hear from y'all. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sapna. That was wonderful. And I'm sure there'll be many questions that are going to come up from the audience. A lot of very practical tools. Remember that you can see this recording and see these slides and find out more about both the speakers and connection to them through their websites. So there'll be a final slide at the end as well. So welcome back, Pratibha and Sapna. We're going to open it up a little bit to a few questions that are starting to accumulate. So I want to remind the listeners that you can offer some questions in the chat box, and our team is sort of filtering and getting them off to me, and I'll also continue and ask a few questions. So a few have come up already. So this is a great question from Ravi. He said, this might seem like a juvenile question, but why is unhealth such an intense source of joy? If we are not meant to have cold drinks during meals, why does it feel good? More generally, why does unhealthy eating and indulgent behavior initially feel good, but then become punishing later? Why can't healthy eating and habits have the same positive effect right off the bat? So it's a great question. I'm going to start with you, Pratibha. You want to respond to Ravi's points, inquiry? You're on mute. You'll need to unmute yourself. Oops. You're still muted. I don't know if Kanchan, you have her muted, or just unmute your microphone.
Okay, now.
We hear you now. Okay, you heard the questions, right?
Well, thanks, Ravi, for asking a spicy question. We needed the spice right now. So I'll try to be brief about it. First of all, we also have mental qualities, and we talk about Rajas, Tamas as two doshas, mind doshas, which can interfere with our choices. And there is a term called pragyaparada in Ayurveda, where we commit intellects of the crime, and these two mental doshas are kind of responsible for it. So, you know, we have the god and the demon right here between, you know, inside our head, and, you know, usually both are having one-upmanship. And in these current times, you know, where things are already contaminated and altered around us, sometimes the choices the bad choices are more littered around us, and the convenience that all of us are seeking in the 21st century always comes at a price. So if you remember these things and try to rethink the perspective of choices, then you might be able to make a change. In my experience, most of my clients, even if they have been hooked on to fast food and beverages and all of that, and I'll give you one very fast example, quick example. There was a client who was surrounded by unhealthy foods in his company. And that was the office culture. There was no way he could escape it. So when he first came to me with Crohn's diagnosis, and I sort of tried to explain to him everything that we have shared, Sapna and I, he was like, this is impossible for me, you know. And I said, you know, there's no hurry. Go chew on everything that we have talked about. And if it makes sense to you, start where it makes sense to you, at a pace where it makes sense to you. And trust me, within a few months, this man, and I haven't seen him now for many months because he's perfectly fine, which is great, is that he came and he said, now when the food comes in front of me, I feel repulsed by it. So the mind gets rewired very quickly, whether it's bad or good. It's about taking a hold of the mind and putting it on the right destination path, and things do turn around. It's just knowing helps. Unfortunately, the bad things are also easy, so we tend to grab them. And sweet is something that is wired into us through evolution. The sweet taste was more preferable because we could go without food in centuries past, and that evolutionary recording is there in our brain. So we tend to grab sweets and other things more easily. And I can let Sapna fill in the rest if she likes.
Thank you. I recall a saying from a dear colleague and friend of mine, Claudia Welch, that she used to share with our students, that when things get complicated, simplify.
Yes.
And so I that just resonates so much, and it's so true. And so Sapna, I want to follow up with Ravi's question there, and you can answer that as well. But how do we simplify our diets to improve and promote better Agni and help us to diminish potentially ama that's built up by some of the bad food habits or things that we're having? How do we simplify? You mentioned it in one of your slides, and maybe just some simple suggestions around a simple meal that people could make, and to stay away from complicated food combinations and the processed foods and those sorts of things.
Yes, there's so much, right? But what I want to start off by saying that we are living right now in an unprecedented times. It is not normal times, no matter where we are. So I want to first be mindful. See what we are in survival mode. We are all home. We may not have all the luxuries and resources on our hands. Which we don't know what part of the world we are, whether people are in Europe and India. Things are changing constantly. So I completely agree. That's why I said, take something that resonates to you from this webinar and take 2 things that may work for you. You may not have access to, fancy spices right now, and you may not even have the financial resources to invest in them. That is okay. Choose simple things. One thing I always start off by saying, Dr. Lad has taught us, and I always share that in all my talks, is ice is not nice. So if you can eliminate something as basic as that, just take out that ice from your life right now, even though it may be tempting, as just how Dr. Shah talked about it. I completely agree. And also touching into the first question that we had is, we have to, I think we've lost our connection to ourselves, and there is a lot of chaos, there's lots of pain, there's lots of sorrow right now. But if you scrape out all of that gunk, there's a lot of calmness underneath, around in this COVID-19. Nature is flourishing, right? So, nature is giving us a wonderful opportunity to get back in sync to who we are. Many of the reasons why we choose bad things, why we are constantly on the move, we eat our food from the drive-through and take out, and we are having lunch and learns, we lost our way. And nature is giving us a wonderful reminder. Yes, there is pain. I'm not going to take that away. I'm not going to take all the problems that we have faced in, but try to see if you take that off, there's a lot of calmness. So warm water, if that's a simple practice, you can tell yourself, I have access to warm water. Even if you don't have electric kettle, don't go buy that. If you have access to cooking, just heat up some water. As simple as that. Open your pantry. If you have some spices, maybe add a slice of ginger in it, as simple as that. Or you can add some, if you want to, if you have cumin, coriander, fennel, all those 3, then make the Ayurvedic, digestive tea. So do baby steps. One other thing that I would say, I find cooking as the biggest form of self-love. And I teach cooking nonstop at different places around here in the Dallas area and all around the country. I go for my workshops and classes. Teach yourself how to cook. So many places are giving live sessions, free opportunities online. Nobody's judging. cook for yourself, because you are nourished, you're putting that energy into your own food, and that energy is going inside you and it reaches to your cellular level. So it could be as, and you don't have to cook elaborate meals right now. Nobody needs that. There are times we are a family of 4 and we can do sandwiches. If you have sandwiches, we can make a simple soup. Open your refrigerator and see what vegetables that you have and chop that up. If you don't have access to fresh vegetables, something in a frozen if you have something in the freezer, if you have a canned bean, even though Ayurveda says that you want to cook fresh and you want to soak your beans and that cook, we are not living in normal times right now. So even if you have canned beans, it's okay, but cook rather than ordering takeout at this time. See if you can cook. So just as simple as you can get.
Great, thank you.
Hilary, I also wanted to add khichdi is a very good Ayurvedic meal, and I think this is a good opportunity to show some spices. You know, so these are available. Even I am shipping them. You can see a lot of immune building spices and formulations, and even khichdi, which is a dry package. It's no preservatives. But khichdi is a very ideal Ayurvedic meal, very simple to make, even if you just boil it and add some ghee and some lemon pickle. Sorry?
Tell them what khichdi is, what the ingredients.
Khichdi is a simple dish of rice and lentil called mung beans, and the mung beans could be the yellow ones, the split green ones. You could add another lentil, but it's a very well cooked, warm meal, which is highly nutritious and given to debilitated people who are convalescing from illnesses. So it is an ideal meal for any age group, any body type, any season. You can build up the nutrition in the khichdi. Khichdi can be used like a baseline dish, and you can add a number of vegetables to it, number of greens to it. I also have frozen amla. Amla is gooseberry, and it is one of the richest sources of vitamin C. I throw in amla to in every meal. It gives a perfect sourness and a lot of vitamin C, antioxidants, etc. And we have this traditional Ayurvedic jam. It's called Chavanpraj, and it is made up of about 50 plus herbs, and it is extremely good for immunity building, specifically for respiratory immunity. So much is available. Yeah.
Follow up to that, since you're on the subject of the spices, Hetal Shah wrote, do Ayurvedic supplements such as those suggested by Dr. Shah interact with modern medicines? Also, is there specific advice for our vulnerable population, the elderly, those with diabetes, heart disease, etc.? So maybe the two of you we'll start with you, Dr. Shah, in regard to these foods and these spices and these herbs in their interaction potentially, if any, with the modern medicines.
Right. So very good question, Hetal. There can be interactions. Most important thing is the interactions have not been studied. That is the plain fact. It is impossible to study each and every herb with each and every drug available out there. And it is very difficult to study polyherbal formulations along with drugs. And my brief answer to that is that it is a very good question. However, it has not much has been documented. Some have been documented, and people who are ethical in their practice do try to inform themselves. For example, Shankapushpi and dilantin should not go together. This is for epilepsy. Shankapushpi is used for treatment of epilepsy in Ayurveda, but it can bring down dilantin levels. Turmeric can act as a mild blood thinner, so it should not be given in conjunction with blood thinners like Plavix, etc. So whatever is known should be researched and should be followed, number one. Number two, not everyone is on medications, on hard medications. So one doesn't have to worry a lot on basic medication like Brufen or Motrin, or if someone is using. I mean, it is case-to-case basis. And if there are some life-threatening conditions, be very careful, of course, very important. As far as the elderly are concerned, I think the most important thing, I would go back to Agni. If you can just ensure that their Agni is good and their Vata is taken care of. Because irrespective of body types, after 50 plus years of age, Vata sort of is the dominant dosha. So if you're doing everything to keep the Vata pacified or under control with warm oil massages, hot body treatments, warm oil treatments, consumption of a lot of ghee, which is a very healthy fat, always advocated in Ayurveda, but now also becoming popular in modern nutrition perspective. It's one of the healthier saturated fats. And giving easy to digest foods. Again, I'll go back to khichdi, and giving all other foods in soupy, stewy forms with enriched with spices like cumin, ginger, turmeric, which are digestive in nature, so that we get almost 100% of the nutrition from that, and therefore the energy from that, and therefore the immunity from that. And then enhance the foods with things like gooseberry, as I mentioned, and or whatever is available. For example, turmeric is mostly available in homes. You can order it online easily. These kind of things, I would say, if you have in your kitchen to be used, especially for the elderly, I think, and stress management, very important, belly breathing, happiness building, joy building practices, etc. Yeah.
Great. Sapna, I'd like you to follow on that a bit, especially the elderly and just how we can include these spices and things in our food to sort of as a soft way in to get the medicines into us, as opposed to taking a pill or a high concentrate of an herb. How is utilizing the spices just as important in our food as medicine is, and just addressing some of the things that question brought up.
So there's so much that I talk in my lectures and my workshops, and this always comes up because we hear these word ashwagandha being floating around, and now we have ashwagandha in chewables, in drinks, in lattes, and mask. So I think there's a difference in the way Western culture embraces things versus Eastern culture. If something is good, you see an overabundant use of it. And I always tell people that food is medicine, but the same food, when it is abused, becomes poison. Turmeric is wonderful. It is wonderful. And I never say it's good for everybody. The answer is always yes, no, it depends. So the easiest way for me to answer this question is I never recommend a therapeutic dose of anything, because Ayurveda, as we know, is a highly personalized and a customized science of medicine. So it may not work for everyone. So the easiest way that everyone can embrace the goodness of Ayurveda, the spices especially, is cook with them. So if you use a particular spice in a culinary way, it is safe for everyone. I also want to point out, again, as I told you, I have an Eastern and a Western brain. They both have to be happy. What is the definition of a spice? A definition of a spice is an ingredient in a recipe that is used in an insignificant amount. That is the definition. So you're not going to be adding in any cooking recipe turmeric 1 cup. You're going to be adding 1 teaspoon, right? So it's an insignificant amount for the recipe, but because it is so potent, that is enough for the entire recipe. But I've seen, and that's one of my biggest thing. Oh, Sapna said, or I always say that certain spices help with bloating or gas. I'm just going to add some more, and a good example of that is hing or asafoetida, right? We always say a pinch. And I always joke in my cooking classes, India does not have has Beano, we have hing or asafoetida. So we never need, I never knew what Beano was until I came to America. So a lot of people, but I always warn them, and I'm going to warn with a very graphic explanation here, because a pinch of hing is excellent for vata pacification. If you can say, oh my God, I'm always gassy with beans, I'm just going to add a tablespoon in my bean soup. You may be going to the ER, and now definitely is not a good time to be around an ER or urgent care, because you're going to have edema and your eyes will be swollen shut. So the same food, when you're abusing it, will become poison. So that would be my easiest way to say that. And cooking. So use them as spices. Dr. Shah showed Chyawanprash, and there are specific, rasayanas or rejuvenating, herbal formulations. For most, it may be fine. For some, it may not be fine. So, also look at the ingredient list, because every Chyawanprash is different. So, look at, because it has ghee, there are a lot of people that may be cautious about, avoiding animal or dairy products. It has honey, it has lots of different spices. For most, I mean, we love Chyawanprash. Our family loves Chyawanprash, but always check with someone who understands that particular rasayan, that is it okay. Don't just follow on social media, everybody's having their spoonful of Chyawanprash, or everybody's having a turmeric shots, so let's do a turmeric shot party, virtual party. Let's not do that, because Dr. Chai and I can both agree that neither of us woke up with a turmeric shot, and neither of us went to bed with golden milk in our hands every single day of our lives. It was intended for a specific reason and a purpose.
Right, thank you. And absolutely true. This Ayurveda is a very specific science, and I do recommend that if you're interested in really applying it, find a practitioner that you can work with, like Sapna or Pratibha or anyone out there. The National Ayurvedic Medical Association has a list of qualified professionals to help you fine tune and find the right mix for you, the right spices, the right food, the right pieces that are going to help you as a unique individual. So once you have worked with somebody for a while, it's very easy to take it on yourself. You don't need to be wedded to an Ayurvedic practitioner for the rest of your life to have them hold your hand. Usually a great practitioner will guide you, teach you about yourself and about the things that you need to do to stay well and healthy. We'll teach you about seasonal adjustments. We'll teach you about your weaknesses, so that when something is coming up, you know what to do with it. You know what spices and foods and lifestyle habits you need to engage in. So I think that's an important piece to this. People do self-prescribe. They get on the internet, as Sapna said, they overdo it, especially here in the West, and more of a good thing is not necessarily a good thing. So Sapna, there was a few minutes left. I want to give you each a minute to sort of wrap up. Just your last sort of words of wisdom. And Kanchan, if you guys could put up the last screen with everybody's URLs and websites and all up on the screen right now, that would be very helpful as we're wrapping up. And then Pratibha will finish.
Do you want me to go first, or Pratibha ji?
Go ahead. I know that you have a hard stop right at the top of the hour.
Yes,
So
the reason I have a hard stop is actually in another hour, I'm doing another live webinar on my platform. If you go to bspice.com, and my topic is COVID-19 and immunity. And let me see if I can actually type that link here. So just give me a second to do that.
The hosts are going to put up a screen in a few minutes for the end of the presentation that has both Sapna's contact information and Pratibha's and the National Ayurvedic Medical Association's contact and website information. So again, you can come back to to this recording and find this detail. But
So yeah, so I shared the link to the organizers and they can share that. But at 2 p.m. I'm spending another hour and a half and diving deep, specifically how to boost overall immunity with specific reference with the era that we have right now of COVID-19 chaos. So that's what I'm going to be jumping on. So today is the day to dedicate to providing awareness and spreading awareness and information about Ayurveda and simple things, what we can do. So, but thank you so much for this opportunity. I thoroughly enjoyed this platform. Thank you again to Hillary Yu for introducing me to Boston Center of Excellence and to Kanchanji for providing this service that anybody can access free and it's available globally. So thank you so much. And as and when the recording will be published, if there are any questions, I'm sure there'll be opportunities where you can send in your questions or comments and you will be having a way to reach out to us. And it was so lovely to share this platform with Dr. Shah. So thank you.
Thank you, Sapna. And Pratibha, your final words.
Yeah, I want to thank Boston Center of Excellence also, and lovely to co-present with you, Sapna and Hillary. I think my parting thoughts are to summarize some of the things that Sapna and I have been saying, that tune in. I think this has been said before on social media. If you can't go out, go in. Again, it's about spinning the entire crisis on its head and looking at what it's providing you. It's providing the earth a lot of relief. I have shared this on my social media yesterday that COVID-19 is probably the Robin Hood of other species, because finally they're getting relief from the human species. In Orissa, turtles and tortoises have come out and they are habitating the beach. And, there's so many other examples coming out. The air is finally breathable in many places, etc., etc. So similarly, nature is also providing us an opportunity to listen to ourselves. I think if you sit in peace and quiet, you will be able to listen in. And like the rest of the animal world, we have the capability of listening to our body and what it is saying to us. And it does talk to us. It does talk to us at all times, and it tells us when things are going wrong. I think this is the time to sharpen that skill of listening to ourselves, to tuning in, and then integrating it, moving forward as a part of your daily living, of tuning in every now and then, even if it's not on a daily basis, if you can do it a few times in a week. I think that because the universe is inside us, the God, so-called, whoever it is, whoever you believe in, the higher power, etc., is within us. The universal intelligence is within us. It's just a matter of learning to learn the listening skills and also the language of the body. It talks to us, and the solutions are there within us. We don't have to read a randomized controlled trial to know that some foods are heating and some are cooling. It's there in us to recognize that something is cooling and something is heating. And if we are paying attention, we can see the universe outside is cold, so we need to heat up things a little bit. Common things like that. You don't need Ayurveda for that. Ayurveda is a compilation of all this wisdom and much more. But this compilation of wisdom is from the universe, and it is there within us. Pick up a few healthy habits from everything that Sapna and I have shared, and identify your starting point, your starting pace, and it will fetch you rich dividends, I can promise.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shah. Thank you so much, Sapna. It was wonderful to be here with you, and I'm so appreciative of the Boston Center of Excellence. I also want to share that the National Ayurvedic Medical Association is holding an online conference at the end of April 24th to the 26th, that everyone is welcome to join. You can find it through www.ayurvedanama.org and our conference page. We're going to have some amazing presenters. We had to cancel our in-person session that we were going to have down in North Carolina, and we put it all online. So we have speakers like Dr. Chopra and Dr. Lad and Maya Tiwari and a huge slew of Ayurvedic Vaidya professionals speaking on a variety of topics. So please check that out. We'd love to see you there. And thank you again. I appreciated the time and the topic. And I'll turn it over to you, Hemanti. You've got some upcoming events coming our way as well. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. I thank all of you, our experts, Dr. Shah, Ms. Sapna, for their wonderful informative session. And also I thank Hilary for moderating the whole webinar. And as already Hilary mentioned about the NAMA conference, please register for that. It will be wonderful. Again, very informative. Also, please stay tuned for our upcoming webinar next week, that COVID-19 era and your body, mind, and spirit, April 5th, and it's at 11 in the morning. And Dr. David Frawley and Dr. Darshan Mehta will be the experts to talk about in this webinar. And Dr. Frawley is a renowned Vedic scholar and author of more than 50 books. And also Dr. Mehta, Darshan Mehta, Medical Director of Benson Henry Institute of Body Mind Medicine and Professor at Harvard Medical School. So please stay tuned for the upcoming webinar next week. Until then, stay safe and stay healthy. We will share the link of this webinar and on chat, and also you would be able to see in Facebook and other media. So please stay tuned for that. Thank you again. Namaste. Wash your hands, and please, as a takeaway, you pray and also make very healthy pranic food at home. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone.